passes from Caitlin? No. She decided not to do that. In fact, she praised Aaliyah Boston. But she passed on the opportunity to say anything positive about Caitlin Clark. She could have squashed all kinds of things right here. It's a perfect opportunity. Did she do it? No. And you will never convince me.
The stage was set for a moment of unity, a chance to showcase the collective strength and camaraderie of the United States women's basketball team. In a tightly produced video segment, forward Angel Reese of the Chicago Sky, a pivotal figure in the league's evolving narrative, offered specific, thoughtful praise for her Olympic teammates. With a smile, she highlighted Chelsea Gray's elite ball handling, the necessity of staying ready for her no-look behind the back passes. She applauded Leah Boston's refined post moves, her footwork, her skill. The compliments were genuine, delivered with the authority of a fellow competitor who respects the craft. It was a snapshot of team cohesion, a star player using her platform to lift others. Yet, within this deliberate act of recognition, a profound and echoing silence resonated, an omission so glaring it became, for many observers, the central theme of the entire interview. Among the constellation of stars on that roster, a roster featuring the most talked-about athlete in modern women's sports, one name remained conspicuously, palpably absent. Kate
played in 13 games. In those 13 games, there were literally like what? 3 or 4 kind of incidents and 2 major incidents, including the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark kerfluffle. Well, I hadn't used that word in a while. In which, of course, the major story coming out of that was Indiana Fever fans called Angel Reese racist something, which launched a massive investigation. Should be noted, Indiana Fever did not defend its fans there.
Caitlin Clark. This was not an offhand comment in a chaotic locker room scrum. This was an official USA Basketball production, a piece of content crafted for public consumption, where every word is measured, every mention strategic. Angel Reese, a player acutely aware of media narratives and her role within them, made a series of active choices. She chose to name Chelsea Gray. She chose to name Leah Boston. She chose, with equal intentionality, not to name Caitlin Clark. In the vacuum of that choice, a torrent of context floods in. Context that stretches back through a seismic and divisive 2024 WNBA season, through investigations and allegations, through a cultural firestorm that often threatened to eclipse the sport itself. To understand the weight of this silence is to revisit the events that have cleaved the league into warring factions of interpretation, where a hard foul is never just a foul, a comment is never just a comment, and an arena sound effect can ignite a nationwide controversy. The incident that serves as the foundational rift occurred on the 16th of June 2024 in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Indianapolis. During a game between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky, an allegation emerged that would dominate headlines for weeks. Angel Reese and the Sky organization contended that Fever fans had directed racist taunts at her. The charge was grave, shocking, and immediately consumed.
During that whole situation, I believe it was the next day or the day after, Angel Reese was interviewed after practice. She had an opportunity to squash the narrative right there. I never heard anything that I would construe as being racist from those Indiana Fever fans, blah, blah, blah. She did not do that. She played along with it. Let's be real. She went along with that narrative. In fact, she was like, yeah, I feel good about the fact that they're doing an investigation. All the while knowing nothing happened.
The basketball world, the WNBA and the Fever, under intense scrutiny, launched a massive investigation. They deployed forensic-level resources. Audio engineers dissected arena recordings. Video from multiple angles was scrutinized frame by frame. Security personnel and fans were interviewed. The conclusion, announced after a thorough process, was definitive. Zero evidence was found to support the claim of racist fan behavior. What the investigation did uncover was the source of the misunderstanding: a common, generic sound effect, a whoop or hey, audio clip frequently used in arenas across the league, and readily available on platforms like YouTube, played over the public address system. It was not a targeted slur, but a standardized cue, misinterpreted in the heat of the moment. However, the resolution of the investigation did not mark the end of the story. In many ways, it was merely the end of the factual chapter. The narrative chapter had already been written. The critical juncture came approximately 48 hours after the game, during Reese's first media availability following the incident. Facing reporters, she was presented with a clear opportunity to shape the narrative. She could have clarified, could have said she personally heard nothing definitively racist, could have introduced the possibility of a misunderstanding, could have offered a measure of grace to the Fever fan base under suspicion. Instead, she chose a different path. She affirmed the gravity of the allegations, expressed satisfaction that an investigation was underway, and validated the need for it. By not dispelling the escalating notion of racist harassment, she effectively lent her considerable influence to its perpetuation. When the investigation ultimately exonerated the fans, there was no public correction from Reese, no acknowledgement of the exoneration, no apparent concern for a fan base collectively.
Well, there was another opportunity. Of course, a lot of us believes Angel Reese doesn't care for Caitlin Clark too much. We've heard a lot of things. I did a video. We found out a while back that Angel Reese really didn't care for Caitlin Clark because anytime anybody brought up, the success of the league, Caitlin was always brought up, even if Angel was brought up. And that grinded her gears. Fry us a river. So, Angel Reese has come out and spoke about her time playing for USA Basketball.
Actively branded with a heinous label based on a now debunked claim. The Fever organization itself faced criticism for what some saw as a tepid defense of its own supporters, but Reese, as the central figure, held the unique power to definitively set the record straight. Her decision to remain silent after the facts were established spoke volumes, cementing a perception for many that the narrative itself was a more useful tool than the truth. This episode cannot be separated from the broader, more persistent undercurrent that defines the Clark-Reese dynamic, the phenomenon of the Caitlin Clark effect. Clark's arrival in the WNBA wasn't merely the addition of a talented rookie. It was a cultural and economic tsunami. In her mere 13 games in the 2024 season before her wrist injury ended her campaign, she shattered viewership records, sold out arenas on the road, spiked merchandise sales, and dragged the league into a white-hot center of mainstream sports discourse. With this effect, however, came a fierce and often uncomfortable spotlight on her teammates, her opponents, and the league's existing stars. For Angel Reese, a reigning champion and cultural icon in her own right, the dynamic created a persistent friction. Multiple reports and sourced accounts from within the WNBA ecosystem have suggested that Reese harbors a deep-seated resentment, not merely a competitive rivalry, towards Clark. The root, according to these narratives, is a pervasive sense of erasure. From Reese's purported perspective, no matter what she accomplishes, a 20-20 game, a crucial defensive stop, a viral moment of swagger, the conversation invariably, inexorably, circles back to Caitlin Clark. Clark becomes the benchmark, the reference point, the central subject. Reese's achievements in this media frame are often contextualized in relation to Clark, rather than celebrated on their own merit. This perceived narrative theft, this constant juxtaposition, is described as a source of profound frustration, a feeling that her own hard-won legacy is being shadowed by a singular, blinding light. Thus, the USA Basketball interview becomes a text ripe for decoding. Here was a setting ostensibly a
video. There were a couple of times they were absolutely on the court together. She had an opportunity to squash narratives out there, to try to do the bygones be bygones, let's all move forward, blah, blah, blah. And she didn't even have to say all that. She could have just said, oh man, being able to play with Caitlin, Paige, Chelsea. If you want to bring up Chelsea, that's fine. There's one point guard in the league, and it's not her.
Above the fray of regular season grudges, a sanctuary of national pride. The team included both Reese and Clark, practicing together, rooming in the same facilities, pursuing a common gold medal goal. For Reese to offer praise for the ball handling of Chelsea Gray, a legendary point guard, while omitting any mention of Clark, whose passing and court vision are the very cornerstone of her generational talent, was a statement in itself. Clark is, by any objective measure, one of the most gifted passers the women's game has ever seen. For a forward like Reese, whose game thrives on energy, positioning, and second-chance points, playing alongside such a passer would seem a dream synergy. A simple, and of course, playing with a passer like Caitlin, you always have to be ready for the ball anywhere on the court, would have been a seamless professional inclusion. Its absence was deafening. This deliberate omission functions as a microcosm of the larger choice facing the WNBA as it hurtles toward the 2026 season. The league stands at a crossroads, fresh off its most visible and financially successful year, a boom undeniably catalyzed by Clark's presence. Yet that same season was punctuated by a relentless cycle of controversy. In Clark's 13 games, there were approximately 4 significant incidents. The alleged racist taunts investigation, a much-debated hard foul from Chennedy Carter, Reese's teammate, that was later upgraded to a flagrant, endless media discourse about physicality versus targeting, and the pervasive social media wars between fan factions. Extrapolate that frequency over a full 40-game season, and the projection is a grinding, exhausting parade.
I mean, are we doing this again? Is that what we're doing? We're going to go through this yet again? I mean, I had to make a video yesterday because we got Sue Bird and Katie Nolan drudging up crap that was an issue in June of 2024. And here we are, about to be 2026. We're still doing this crap. We're still doing the hate thing. And I'm not hating on Angel Reese. I'm just saying she fumbled a huge opportunity here to squash a bunch of drama, a bunch of narratives, all this kind of thing. And she didn't do it. Just like she didn't seize the opportunity to jump out there and say, I never heard Indiana Fever fans making any kind of noises, and I don't believe they're racist. She passed on that opportunity too.
Of 10 to 12 similar flashpoints, the league's growth, its hard-won momentum, is perilously balanced against this capacity for internal conflict. The actors in this drama are now repeating their lines. Sue Bird and Katie Nolan, respected voices in the sport, recently revisited the June 2024 controversies, reigniting discussions many hoped were dormant. Angel Reese, through her interview choices, has signaled that the personal and narrative grievances remain operative, even in the hallowed context of the national team. These actions suggest a disturbing reality. For some key figures, the drama is a feature, not a bug. It sustains relevance. It fuels brand identity and opposition. It draws clear battle lines for a devoted fan base. The resentment, as sourced to Reese, is not being sublimated into competitive fire on the court. It is being manifested through strategic silences and narrative perpetuation off it. When Caitlin Clark returns for the 2026 season, presumably healthy and armed with a year of professional experience, the conditions for a repeating cycle are firmly in place. She will hit deep threes. She will break records. She will sell out buildings and spike ratings. And according to the pattern established,
I've said this is 2026 is going to be the same things we've been seeing in 2024, in 13 games of 2025. I mean, so let's see, she would have played in another, let's just say roughly 35 games. What would we have seen? Another 5 or 6 or 7 fiascos go down? Because that was what we would have averaged enough where there would have been like 10 issues, 10 incidents if she'd have played all season. I'm talking about Caitlin. Unbelievable. And you know they really gonna get mad when she comes back and she's hitting threes in faces again. Tell me what you think.
Each triumph will be met not just with competitive resistance on the hardwood, but with a wave of oblique references, revived narratives, and strategic omissions from certain corners of the league and its media coverage. The question is no longer about a single interview slight. It is about whether the ecosystem of the WNBA possesses the collective maturity to prioritize sustainable growth over the addictive sugar rush of conflict. Angel Reese's 30-second segment of praise was a masterpiece of subtext. It revealed that the wounds of 2024 are not healed. They are merely waiting for the 2026 season to be reopened. It confirmed that for some, the shared goal of elevating the league is secondary to the personal project of navigating or cultivating its most divisive narratives. Her silence on Caitlin Clark was not an oversight. It was a meticulously delivered message. It said that even in the pursuit of Olympic gold, some lines remain drawn. It previewed a future where professional camaraderie is conditional, where acknowledgement is a currency spent only on allies, and where the shadow of past dramas darkens even the brightest stages. The burden now falls on the league's leadership, its veteran players, and its partners to break this cycle. Will they allow the 2026 season to be defined by the same toxic pattern, where every moment of brilliance is countered with a wave of contentious discourse? Or will someone, a coach, a veteran star, a broadcaster, finally declare that the sport itself is the story? Angel Reese had a chance in that interview to be that person, to take the high road and shift the narrative toward unity. She chose not to. In doing so, she didn't just fail to mention a teammate's name, she offered a sobering prophecy of the battles to come, confirming that in the WNBA's new era of unprecedented attention, the greatest competition may not always be between the lines, but in the spaces between the words we choose to say.